All right, welcome to another episode of We All Speak in Poems. Today, Chantal and I are sitting down to chat about our thoughts on the future of the podcast and the break that we had. We're also chatting about upcoming Alaskan Tapes projects and collaborations and much more. We hope you enjoy it. And here comes Bob.
Hi, Oreo. Can you go lay in the chair, please? He's so clingy. I guess we might as well talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah, episode 4 of season 2, which is what we're talking about, right?
No, I mean the new backdrop.
Oh.
We're not in the dining room. We're back in your office.
Yeah,
I say back, but nobody knows that that's where we recorded the first season. But this is how we did the whole first season.
That's true. Yeah, there was no video in the first season. We just wanted it to be a little bit more easy. Every time we had to record before, we had to bring down the laptop and set up everything and set up the lights. And
by
all
before,
this stuff.
you mean the most previous episodes, yes.
Yeah, the last 3 episodes.
And it actually started to break our table.
Yeah, we were moving it around too much.
Our table's wobbly now. That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's already scratched up and stuff, right? We've only had it for
It was
a
not
while.
It's not a high quality table. We're not good at shopping for furniture. No.
Yeah, maybe this will actually make us get a new table.
We're not getting a new table. Okay. Anyways. All right. So going back, we did the first season. How many episodes did we have? 18?
18.
And we did that in 2021 or 2022. Or was it?
Or both. Yeah. I think we started in October 2021.
But when did we start releasing? Wow, my memory is bad.
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
It was late 2021.
Yeah. And then
we went until April or June of 2022.
It was pretty early into 2022 that we were like, all right, let's take a break.
Yeah.
And we were planning on it only being 6 months. What happened there?
We got lazy, I guess, right?
We're very big procrastinators.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with the first episodes of the podcast, we didn't really know a vision of what we wanted for the podcast, right? We were just going for it. And I wanted to do video. You didn't want to do video very much. And it's still we're still trying to figure out whether or not we're going to continue with video, right? And my whole goal with the podcast is to get people here to record instead of doing it virtually, because we can see the quality issues that happen when we have to do it remotely, But we just took some time. We took some time to make sure that we even wanted to do it, because at the time I was dealing with everything, editing and social media and all that stuff, and that's what really burnt me out, especially the social media part. It made it just not worth it for me to do. I just didn't like it.
It was very time consuming, and you were the one doing all the research and coming up with all the questions. I was working a lot too, so I didn't really make time for it. Yeah,
it was very much my project.
But now I'm more involved. I'm doing the editing.
Yeah, and it's been very, very helpful. I get to do what I've wanted to do, which is just have conversations with people, and you deal with everything else.
Yeah, I'm doing all the research, and you help with the questions, obviously, and stuff, and then I do the editing. But you also still do some of the finer things within the editing, like the mastering and stuff. Anyways,
I master the audio.
It's more evened out now, for sure.
Yeah, because social media for a podcast is the worst.
It really is. I guess where we're going with this now is, originally we stepped into this season. We keep calling them seasons. Originally we wanted to do the first season, 18 episodes, and then 6 months later come back with another 15 to 20 episodes for another season. And then when our break went longer than expected, we just came back into it with, okay, let's just start off with the first 10 being on video. And then we just won't have we won't do seasons. We'll just keep recording. And especially now that it feels more manageable, we're both taking on the weight of the podcast instead of it just being all you. But with that I'm planning on kind of stepping back from being in all of them.
Which you already kind of were before as well. There'd be episodes where you were in or not in, depending on how late we were doing it, the day we were doing it, because you had, work in the morning and you had to go to bed. And even with Lolotone's episode, I had to record that
while I was sleeping.
It was 11 at night. because he's
you're
in
like
Japan.
whispering and holding in your laughs for the whole first half because you're like, I can't wake her up.
Yeah, exactly. And even with Patrick's episode, he's in Sweden, so we had to do it later. And I think that was just me.
I think so.
Could be wrong. And we're just gonna kind of go with it like that because, you've never really been one for the spotlight, and neither have I really. But I really want to do these projects, so one of us have to be in it.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And I mean, bringing all that up too, it sucks with the remoteness of the guests that we have, because if anybody has been watching on YouTube, we're on YouTube now.
Yeah.
I guess we haven't really mentioned it, at least not too much. Oh my, it's just a headache.
Yeah. Like, you can't control people's sound quality, you can't control their video quality, and then everyone, including us, are fidgeters.
Yeah, and the program that we use, I'm going to use Michael Lestard as an example here. When I work with him remotely, because he lives in Oregon. Montana.
Yeah.
And I'm in Toronto, so when we work together, we work over Zoom.
Yeah.
His audio quality and video quality is immaculate every single time. And it was when we were recording too, for the most part.
No,
and
it wasn't. You said that even when we logged off and we were looking at the footage. You were like, oh, it was great. No, it wasn't. It was just all glitchy and cubey and...
Yeah, but I'm blaming that on Squadcast.
Squadcast, yes.
Which is what we use. If we record it on Zoom, it wouldn't have happened. Maybe that's a way forward.
Can we use Zoom as a...
Yeah, it's just more steps. We have to ask the guest to record their end.
Oh, okay.
And then send it to us. We have to make sure everything's synced up. And I want the guest to be able to just come in and start talking, not have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And with Squadcast and all these programs, it's supposed to be higher quality because it's supposed to do that automatically, even with the video. But lately, it's just messing up. It was good last season, a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I remember though on Squadcast that because we used to obviously record it where we could see each other, but we weren't recording and publishing the videos. But I remember quite a few people coming on and their video quality was just absolute crap.
That's fine if it's intentional, right? I don't mind if a guest comes on and they just don't have a high-end camera or high-end microphone. What I do mind is when they do have a high-end camera or microphone, Squadcast ruins it.
Yeah.
So that everybody.
And that might even be the case from last time. We never asked people what they were, because we weren't worried about the video quality then, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something to take into consideration. It sucks because if we could do it here, everything would be in our control. We'd have our higher quality cameras. We'd have our higher quality mics. You could hear everybody breathing if you wanted to. But I don't know. It's something that hopefully will happen in the future, but, imagine flying people out, how expensive that would
get. There's already a couple people that we're planning on testing this out with that live closer to us, that, we're not paying for them to come fly out from anywhere. Yeah,
we have definitely not taken advantage of Toronto, us being so close to Toronto, because, actually, I don't know if we've had anybody from Toronto on. I did the live stream podcast with Chad Sunrain before we even came up with this, and even that was remote. Why didn't I have him here? I don't know. I just didn't know what I was doing, I guess. But we need to have them on. I say them, but Chad and Danny, who run Half Moon Audio, who's a great mastering service, by the way. If any musicians are out there, they master my music for the most part. And there's a lot of ambient artists in Toronto that are really interesting, and for some reason, I'm using the podcast as an excuse to meet new people. And I've always said that I want to meet the people that I have had no reason to reach out to.
Yeah,
it
gives a reason.
Because apparently it's weird to just reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, I like your stuff. Let's talk. Let's be friends."
It's not weird. You just make it weird.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, there are people here and people tour and stuff. I don't know why I can't just... I need to start being like, hey, you're in Toronto at this point. Come over and we'll record something if you're down. If not, it's all good too.
I never thought of that though. I just took that the wrong way when you said touring. Would you ever just take the camera, laptop, and microphones and travel to... if we're traveling, if we're on a trip...
100%.
you'd bring all the gear and film it at their place if they're comfortable with that or something?
I would like to figure out like a remote setup. So maybe we don't have to bring both mics, but we have a microphone that can sit in the middle and record everybody high quality. Oh, okay. We always bring our camera anyways. We always bring a laptop anyways, and that's all we really need. Mm-hmm. Or we can get the USB microphones, which are high enough quality and they're lightweight, and you don't also have to bring an interface. Or whatever. But I think going forward with the trips that we take, we should always try to find somebody in those places and try to get an episode out of it. Yeah. It'd also be interesting on video being in different places. Yeah. You know? I think that would be really cool. But how realistic is that, right? Like, it's already enough trouble getting people's schedules to line up. Mm-hmm. You know, imagine also being like, oh, I'm only here for a week and you have to be available. No, it's never like that. But
it could also be pre-planned though. Like, I guess our trips are a little bit sporadic, but in the process of planning it, it can be like, is there anyone we know out there? Should we message them now and see if this could be possible? Like,
that's true. Yeah. And it would definitely be interesting for like Iceland, when we go there, and even in Canada, but we don't really travel to
like Europe.
Yeah. We essentially travel to 3 places constantly, and nobody that I know of is in the Adirondacks, so No, yeah. But who knows? I mean, it'd be really cool, but I think we should, for the time being, we should take advantage of the people that are in Toronto. But another point of the podcast is to talk to mine and our favorite artists, right? And I like a lot of artists in Toronto, but the people I really, really want to talk to are in LA or London or New York, you know? Mm-hmm. And New York's not that far. We could actually travel to New York pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But that's besides the point. It'd be really cool to have a studio, be able to have people out, hang out with them for the day, record an episode. But that would cost thousands of dollars per episode. And we only make, a couple $1,000s per episode. No, we don't make any money. But that's fine. That's not the point of this. The only point in that would be to be able to do these types of things. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it. And hopefully one day that'll be a thing that we're able to do. But until then...
Yeah, I don't know. I went on a big ramble.
No, that's okay. That's cool.
I have dreams when it comes to this particular project. And, one of the things that we also talk about is like the cadence of episodes, right? Once every 2 weeks or once a week. And I think right now we're doing it really well. Before we were doing 3 weeks in a row, 1 week off. So it'd be 3 episodes a month. And now we're doing just 2 episodes a month. And I think it's working better. It's giving us time to get the guests that we want. Yeah. Have an actual proper conversation that we want to have. And I think the quality of the conversations has gone up. I could be wrong about that. Maybe I just have rose tinted glasses on the recent stuff.
I feel like it's been going good. Going well. But speaking of the cadence of episode releases, in terms of how we've done it so far, so last time it was 3 in a row, but it wasn't just 3 in a row, 1 week off. It was 2 guests and then 1 with just us. Am I right? Yeah. True. And then we would have a week off and then repeat that. We went into this being like, are we doing the episodes with just us? Like, we don't know. And even with this episode, like, this one's happening mainly to kind of clue everyone in on, like, this is where we've been. This is what we're doing going forward. I'm not really going to be around anymore. No.
I mean, whether or not you're in the episodes with guests or not, we could still do these episodes. I don't think we're going to be doing them as often. With that being said, we've only done like 5 episodes with just us. We stopped doing them on the New Year's episode of 2021.
That's true. Yeah. It just gets hard. Like, I would love to continue doing them, but I would love to continue doing them in a way where it's like I'm interviewing you. Like, I really want to do a deep dive of your career. We already did, like, we kind of talked about doing it towards the end of 2022. You started your career so early. Like, there's just so much to tell there, and I would love for people to hear it.
Yeah, we've talked about doing like the 3 episode sort of deep dive on Alaskan Tapes.
I feel like it would go more than 3 episodes, especially because I feel like for the episodes with just us, we usually try to keep it shorter. And then if we do that, after that, I don't know what kind of episodes you would like to see with it just being us. Because for me, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with that is I don't want to bombard people with me.
You're not bombarding people with you. It's like the reason we're having other artists on is because we want to hear their story. And you haven't really had a big chance to share yours. Like, you've done interviews in the past. You have interviews. Have you ever been on a podcast?
Yeah, I've been on one.
Which one?
It was a long time ago. I don't remember what it was called, but it was a fans podcast.
Oh, cool.
It was when we were in the basement.
How do I not know this?
I don't know if it's even still up or live on the...
Was it about your career, though, or were you guys just, like, shooting the shit?
No, I think it was about We All Speak in Poems. It must have been around the time where that came out.
This is We All Speak in Poems.
Whoa. The album, We All Speak in Poems. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's weird, actually.
Yeah.
But it was around that time, so it must have been 2016, 2017. And that's the only one I was on.
Okay.
It was with Dave Houligard. I remember his name because he would correspond with me a lot. And then he actually, I don't know what he was doing before, but he quit his job to become like he's a singer-songwriter, sort of folk artist now. I wonder how he's doing.
Yeah, you should reach out, have him on yours now.
True.
And be like, some weird metaverse thing happened. You had me on yours, and now mine's named after the album you were like talking to me.
True.
I don't know if we ever really spoke about how we came up with the name.
Yeah, I just didn't want to call it the Alaskan Tapes podcast.
Yeah, because that was my idea, was like the Alaskan Tapes ambient podcast or music podcast or something like that, because it lets people know what it's about and who it's with.
But it's not always about ambient music. It's not always...
That's fair.
Even about music.
Yeah. Well, we try to make it about music.
Yeah, we try to incorporate it.
And I think that was the main goal, is still the main goal of this podcast, is to create a community where we can talk about the more niche genres and with artists. And
communities.
Yeah, but I would love to know what people think about the title of the podcast, because We All Speak in Poems totally comes off as like, oh, it's probably a writer's podcast or like about poetry.
Or overly pretentious. Like.
Yeah, I mean, are we overly pretentious? Probably. I don't know.
Maybe. That's fine, though. That's fine.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, I really wanted it to be sort of a song title that I had, or an album title. And this was the only one that sort of worked. I'm not going to call the podcast... In Distance We're Losing.
But I was able to convince you to have it say With Alaskan Tapes. Now
it does.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I feel like it.
I guess shout out to Mitch, who designed the new logo. It's weird because we've done 3 episodes now, which has been 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. I guess 8 weeks now, because this is going to come out fairly soon. We never really addressed like the new look. So
the video, like nothing.
Thing.
No.
So
sorry
I
about
had
that.
designed the original logo, which was just that circle thing with the birds, and it just said We All Speak in Poems. Mm-hmm. And a designer friend of mine, he's a designer. And I was like, why don't I just ask him?
Mitch Burke, right?
Mitch Burke, yeah. He's also a poet.
Yeah.
Also close to us. He'll be on the podcast eventually. And yeah, I was like, yo, can you just design something? And first thing he designed it, and I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And then you had been convincing me for a long time to put With Alaskan Tapes.
Yeah.
And then he had just written it and it looked good, and I was just like, okay, fine. Even though I really don't think that brings additional listeners.
It like, does, though, because when you look through like music podcasts, and if you recognize a musician that you listen to as being like the host of the podcast, like I feel like you're more likely to watch it, or at least then people who do know who you are will maybe have a better idea of the type of guests you're planning on having on, or the type of things you're talking about, right?
That's true. And I kind of feel bad though, because
I touched the camera. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm too fidgety. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why we don't just do with Brady and Chantal, or with Brady. if you're not going to be on them very often.
I don't want it to be Brady and Chantal because, first of all, I don't feel like I add much to any of the episodes I'm in. Like, I'm not a musician myself. I have a really hard time. And this is another reason that I'm like kind of taking a step back because I feel very out of my comfort zone being on this podcast with other musicians a lot of the time. Like, they are, and you are so knowledgeable about everything within the music scene, like, and especially when it comes to gear talk, like, what are you talking about? I understand. I kind of know what like an OP1 and an organelle is, and like what FX or whatever the hell this is. Like, I don't know.
That's the thing is nobody knows all the stuff. It's all about learning, right? I do get why you're taking a step back. It can definitely be intimidating if you know you're with industry professionals.
Yeah, I just get too in my own head.
And you get too in your own head. But that's fine. And we're going to deal with that. And if we have a guest on that you're really stoked on or something, like, you can just join in.
Mm-hmm. But, sorry, the whole reason I brought that up is because why would we call it Brady and Chantal if I'm not consistently in it, but also out of, like, from... Like, Alaskan Tapes has a community. You have fans. You have built this community where people know who you are and what you do. Who the fuck's Brady Kendall?
Yeah, good point. Because in my mind, I like the 9 Club a lot. And the 9 Club, I don't know if they switched it, but it was at least with Chris Roberts.
Yeah,
which is the host. Too. And I guess that's technically his alias. Like, it's his real name, but that's how people know him. And people don't know the name Brady, right?
Yeah. Like, well, in the skate community, everyone goes by their first name. Like, they don't really make up. Oh, really? Who makes up names?
Lizard King.
Oh, true.
Spanky.
Oh, true. Even Steve. Is Steve-O? Is that
Steve-O.
Is that his real name? What's his real name? Is it just Steve?
I'm sure it's Steven.
Oh, okay.
Bam Margera is Brandon.
Oh, true. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. But I feel like it's not so common anymore for people to kind of have, like, aliases as skateboarders.
Especially if they're, like, a personality. Yeah, and that's what he's known by. So having it... We all speak in poems with Brady.
Just doesn't make sense.
No. But at the same time, I don't feel like I'm representing Alaskan Tapes when I do this a lot of the time, right? Because it's not just ambient music. We talk about progressive metal.
But you are representing Alaskan Tapes a lot of the time. There's a lot of conversations where artists are sharing something and then you are reflective on, oh yeah, as Alaskan Tapes, this was my journey too, or this was my experience. True. Like, you do bring it back around to Alaskan Tapes. That's
a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Does anyone?
I don't know how to talk. But
does anyone?
That's fair.
Like, I don't know.
But yeah, those are the sort of the plans with this project, this podcast. Like, just trying to figure it out. And it's even like the video thing. I've brought it up a couple times already, but we don't know if we're going to continue the video thing. We're doing it because I want to see it grow a little bit, and everybody's thing is put it on YouTube, and I didn't just want a visualizer. And the podcasts that I do listen to all pretty much have
YouTube,
have video.
Yeah.
So might as well have it too, but it is definitely more comfortable when it's just audio.
Yeah, more comfortable and less work, and less easier work, in terms of, like, if it is going to stay being a distant thing for a long time, like where we can't bring the guests in, it works better. Yeah. Actually, that's a good question, though, because I find editing audio in the form of a podcast easier in Premiere, right? And you've actually edited both in FL and in Premiere. Do you find Premiere easier? Well, now it's been a long time since I've done FL, so I honestly don't remember, but I feel like it was really easy. Like, yeah, I guess it's the same thing. It was pretty much the same thing. Especially now. You should see the update that FL has. It's brought us into the 21st century. Sick. Something that I do want to bring up that I feel really bad, and like, I wish that we maybe had just re-recorded or redone it or figured it out better, taken our time with it a little bit more. But again, Michael Lessard's episode, like, the audio is messed up in that. We're talking and responding to him before he's done talking. But when we were in this call, it wasn't happening like that. Yeah. It was a rendering issue. Exactly. Because then when I did try to fix it, it was like the mouths weren't matching up, and like that was so far has been my hardest one to edit.
And it sucks because Michael is such an influential person to us, and we've been fans for so long. Yeah. And this isn't going to be the first time he's on the podcast. No. We're going to have him back on.
If he's willing to be.
If he's willing to be. He might have had the worst time ever. But I don't know. He was saying really what I think is important things and interesting things. And although you do want the highest quality possible, I guess the only thing that really matters is that it's listenable and the guest is a good guest. And he was. Yeah. And I've heard from a couple people that it was definitely listenable because I let Adam listen to it.
We reached out to some people and just asked, like, was it okay? Because we know that there were issues with it. And
and it almost doesn't suck because it's a good thing. But, like, this episode is going to be super high quality. Yeah. Like, exactly it's going to be Craig Adams' episode. Yeah. I don't know why his episode is so high quality and Eli and Michael's aren't. It sucks. It must be their internet, maybe. It must be... I don't know. Maybe I should have restarted my laptop. I don't know.
Yeah. So we thought maybe it was Squadcast, and that's why today we're actually not recording on Squadcast. What is this one called again?
Oh, it's just with OBS.
Yeah. So we are going to be taking a step back from using Squadcast. We're going to try out some different platforms going forward, and hopefully that helps. But we're amateurs.
Yeah. But it sucks to say as well. But if that keeps happening, then video is going to go away for a little while. We're just going to focus to make sure that the audio quality is great. Yeah. Because at least for me personally, and what I hear from a lot of people is they just listen to podcasts in their car anyways, or when they're cleaning, or when they're doing chores, or when they're working. It's like they can't even watch the podcast anyways.
Actually watching it.
Yeah. The only thing video is good for is the social media clips, and I don't even feel like posting those. So you make them, and we're like, I'm just not going to post them.
No, it is hard, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. We have to be professional in some way. And, I feel like the video does that. Like MusicBet just started a podcast.
I'm sorry, are you saying that people who do podcasts without video aren't professional? Or are you just saying you're trying to, like, make us step up our professional game?
The second one. You can have a professional podcast without having video.
There's a lot out there.
But what I want is not that.
No, you want to be able to provide all the platforms possible to, like, it gives us more reach, especially because we're just starting out. Like,
and that's the way I've always thought, even with music. Have your music everywhere, just in case it blows up on SoundCloud. Imagine you didn't upload it on SoundCloud, that never would have happened. Or some obscure other thing, make sure it's everywhere. And it's the same with this, like, if one extra person listens from whatever country, because it's on an obscure podcast platform in only their country, then that's worth it, right? With that being said, I don't know what a podcast actually brings in terms of value. Like, it's entertainment for sure, but I think music is more cathartic and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I value podcasts less, and that's a bad thing to say, for sure. I think so. I think that's just a bias that I have.
I'm surprised to hear that. I feel like, societally speaking, podcasts right now are like, first of all, it's either you hate them or you love them, and like you have one you really like, or you've tried so many and you can't find one. But I feel like everyone's pushing for podcasts. Like, when you're cleaning, why just listen to music? Why not put on a podcast and try and either learn something, or just, if you're in a bad headspace, you can feel like you're with some friends or get a laugh, or whatever kind of podcast you're listening to, right?
For sure. And even at the label, like, all the artist managers and stuff are like, okay, it's time to start a podcast so that you can explain your workflow.
Oh, wow.
And stuff like this. Like, it definitely has value, but I think people use it in a way to explain themselves, kind of like I do on the live streams. You can probably count that as a podcast if you really wanted to. Yeah. Which would actually be a good episode, like, have the stems and anyways. Yeah, I think it's just a bias thing. Like, when you think of somebody seriously creating art, and I don't know if you consider having a podcast art, but it could be, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think it is.
For sure.
Especially now that I've tried to be on one with you, and I've realized how difficult it is.
What do you mean? Like this one?
Not this episode specifically, but like having that pressure of knowing that you're having a conversation with someone and it's not just a casual conversation. It's a conversation that's being released for billions of people to have access to listen to, and you want to make sure you're bringing forward the best content possible. Like if you're trying to educate people, try and come up with questions that will help them learn from what the guests are.
Yeah, it has to be planned in some way, or at least have like a story.
It's not the planning part that gets to me. It's like sitting down and feeling like, oh, I'm about to just have a conversation, and then being like, oh shit, like no, I have to ask this question at this time, but you want it to also feel natural, and then it's just I just sit there and I'm like, do I talk now? I don't know. What was said? I'm so busy thinking about my thought, like paying attention to my thoughts.
That's the hardest part, when you have you're like, this question's gonna be so good, and then the topic changes and you're like, all right.
Like, I guess I can't ask that one now.
It's gonna be next time.
Yeah.
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Because you can't control exactly where a conversation goes.
No.
You can reel it back, but then that feels unnatural, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely interesting, and I'm pretty introverted, as you know. It might not seem like it.
You've gotten more comfortable in front of the camera,
in front of the camera.
We haven't really talked about it yet, actually. You have another job. You are not just Alaskan Tapes anymore. You work with a company. I do what you want to do with how you want to explain it, but
yeah. So I actually work now at the label that I'm signed to as Alaskan Tapes. As A&R, I'm trying to build the ambient neoclassical section of it, which is really exciting, and it's allowed me to. It's weird. The original idea of this podcast is meeting people that I've always wanted to meet, and now that job is enabling me to do that privately.
Yeah,
I can reach out to my favorite artists and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this. Are you interested?" And that's pretty exciting. But that's also why the podcast took so long to come back.
Because it was actually around the time that we were like, all right, let's start reaching out to people. And then Network reached out to you and you were like, oh, wait, things are about to get busy for me. I need to get in, I need to feel out my workflow before we pick this back up. Because obviously that's more important.
Yeah, and I think I need to put this out publicly that, I have historically been, I don't want to say against labels, but they're not for everybody.
No.
And you can be successful without a label, and you can do anything a label does without a label.
Yeah.
Especially now with DistroKid. It's just a lot more
work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Now, especially with the label like Network, you have a whole team behind you. It's not that there's anything wrong with web labels. I have to watch my tongue here. But, there's a whole team. You have a product manager, you have a social media manager, you have a marketing manager. And a lot goes into everything now, for the artists on the label. And it's been exciting, but I still go into meetings with artists saying, I'm a big fan of yours. That's why I'm reaching out to you. You don't have to say yes to this. It's not going to be absolutely life-changing.
So I don't know how much you want to get into this, and if you want, this can get cut out or whatever. But when you first started as an A&R at Network, you went through a really bad ethics crisis because of what you just said. You have had offers from labels in the past, quite a lot. And you've sat through their pitches, you've taken everything into consideration, and you've said no many times. With Network, it was that again. You laid everything out. You ended up saying yes.
Yeah.
For the first time. And it was scary for you, and you were with them for about a year and a half when they approached you with the offer to work for them now too.
Over 2 years.
Oh, it was over 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Not good with numbers. And then I feel like at first you were so excited, and then the minute you actually started reaching out to people, you were like, oh my God, labels are terrible. But labels are not terrible.
Yeah.
There can be bad labels. There can be good labels. Not only that, but you're going to an artist with an offer. You're not going to an artist
with a gun
saying,
to their head.
Exactly. Thank you for taking the words out of my mouth.
But I've actually been thinking about this a lot. So, yeah, I was having an ethics crisis because I felt like I was ruining people's lives.
Yeah.
If they signed this deal. Because
and
I remember...
not if they sign the deal. If they sign the deal and it doesn't go the way that you guys have kind of promised for it to go, then you're like, it's going to be my fault for that, which is,
and that's another ethics dilemma. You can't promise something that you can't keep, right? Like, just because we have this in with a specific thing, that doesn't mean that this artist will be on it. We'll do our best to push it, but sometimes music just doesn't click for some reason, you know, even if it's the best music you've ever heard.
But even with that statement, like, it's not like you go to an artist and say, you have 10,000 followers right now, we're going to get you to 1 million by the end of this year. You guys don't, am I wrong about that? Like, no. You guys don't actually give specific numbers or specific playlists or any, like, you guys don't give specifics. You just say, we're going to be here to support you and take some weight off your shoulders, especially because there's a lot of artists that you guys have signed that have other jobs. Like, this isn't a full-time job for them, whether it's because they don't want it to be or because they're not making enough for it to be.
And the truth is that it's not going to be a full-time job for every artist, right? It can't be, right? I think the other thing with the ethics thing, though, is not just signing an artist to a label, it's the ethics of an advance.
Yeah.
So when Network is a big label, we offer advances instead of a web label who just takes your release and releases it. You split it 50-50. Yeah. Or hopefully if it's a web label. I call it a web label. It's probably undermining what they do. Anyways, hopefully it's actually more like 70-30 because they don't actually have this team that they... Anyways, when you accept an advance, there's something called recoupment where the label has to make the money back. It's an investment to them. And one problem that I have, which makes sense business-wise for a label, but I personally have an issue with, is that your advance only gets recouped from your half. So even if, let's say, Alaskan Tapes makes $100,000, only 50,000 of that is getting recouped.
Yeah.
The label's just keeping the other 50. Mm-hmm. You know, that's their profit. That's, you know.
That's their earnings, yeah.
So it takes double the amount of time to start earning your royalties. With that being said, I think that Network gives very generous advances. Yeah. I don't know how much I should be saying here, actually.
No, I think it's more just like because these are the conversations we were having when you were going through this ethics crisis, is like, Network is not like all those other, like, there are a lot of shady labels out there, and Network is not one of them. They are, like what you're saying, very generous. They are very understanding. They're coming from a place of like, we're here to actually help you. And if it's not going well, you can leave. If it's not going well on our end, we're going to ask you to leave, kind of thing. Like, that's the vibe that I get from them. They're just...
For the most part, we have to go through the contract.
This is not sponsored by Network.
and that's the thing, right? Is not everybody's even going to have a positive experience with Network. I know artists that have not had positive experiences with Network. I know artists that have had only positive experiences with Network. You know, mine has...
Same with any label, yeah.
Exactly. And this is... I go very personal with when I'm reaching out to an artist. Like, I have to have them understand, like, this is what could happen. This is what could happen. This is what could go wrong. You're laying the options
out for them, and that's important. And that's why I feel like, you know, you don't need to dwell on it so much. Like, you know.
You know, but with that being said, it's been a very positive experience. And I've met artists very personally now that I've always wanted to meet and work with. Like, I've always wanted to start a label, and I've always had a list of my favorite artists that are essentially dream artists on my own label, and I get to do this without any risk. Yeah. With a reduced risk to the artist, because there's already a setup structure with Network.
Yeah.
And it's working out now. It was a little bit of a... I also hadn't worked a job in 7 years.
Yeah. And
that probably honestly, had to do with it
just
too.
To bring this full circle, when we started out the podcast, you were only doing Alaskan Tapes and Luch Jennings stuff. And you had a really hard time structuring your day.
Oh, yeah.
For years, you've had a hard time structuring your day. Like, sometimes you wouldn't start working until 6 p.m. And sometimes you would work at 7 a.m., but only until 12 or what, like, which is fine as an artist. No, like, whatever art form you're in, I feel like that's usually how it works, especially if you're someone who doesn't really care for a schedule. Like, for a long time, I kept recommending it and giving you ideas on how to get into a schedule, but it's not easy. You can't force inspiration, right? Yeah. But I feel like ever since, so we started the podcast with the idea of you having a little bit more structure to your life, because it was scheduling these conversations, these interviews, and then
You had to do the work.
Doing the work, yeah. And then when you did get this job now it's like I feel like this is the most like productive you've ever been, and inspired too. Like, you've been having a hard time writing music, but the music you have been writing has been really good.
It's been good. Yeah, it's been an interesting time. When I first got hired, my productivity level was through the roof. I wrote what are we at now? 18 lute songs or something like that. And like 10 Alaskan Tapes songs that may or may not see the light of day, but that's besides the point. And it felt really good. Now I'm kind of getting comfortable with the schedule, and it sucks because we're in the eastern part of Canada, and network works off the Pacific part of Canada, so
your
3
day
hours
doesn't
behind.
Start till 12.
That's an issue, but that's an issue for me. It's just all about being a little bit more, aware of the schedule.
Yeah.
This is the time I have to make music or not. But I'm getting things done, and that's the thing. I don't procrastinate as much as I used to. I still procrastinate a lot.
Yeah.
But definitely not as much as I used to. So it's been positive. It's a good time. And I'm sure, if anybody listening has questions about that, like, I'd be happy to answer them as long as it's not too in depth.
Yeah.
I don't feel super comfortable even giving too much praise to network, right? I don't want people out there listening thinking that it's the dream goal to be on network, because it could be.
Yeah, it depends on the type of artist you are and what you're looking for.
For some reason, I just don't want to influence anybody in any sense. And obviously having a podcast does the exact opposite.
But also don't want to talk down network or talk it up too much.
Exactly.
It's like this, you really struggle with that.
I like to be right in the center. Yeah.
But and privately have your opinion.
Exactly. But it's been good. I'm really excited about the projects that I've been a part of. Like, never in a million years would I ever dream of being part of anything to do with the Album Leaf.
Yeah.
And
now you work with them.
And now I'm like part of the team, kind of.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. It's been interesting. I never really thought that this would... I still get to make a living in music, right?
Yeah.
And it hasn't affected Alaskan Tapes. It's only affected it positively, because now I get to seriously have my finger on the pulse of everything happening with Alaskan Tapes again, which is what I missed when I first signed. Giving up too much control was an issue for me, and now I'm in the meetings again. Speaking
of Alaskan Tapes, can we talk about what is coming this year for Alaskan Tapes? Because I'm personally really excited about it, and I think you are too. It's a very different direction.
Am I missing something? I don't know.
Oh, shoot. You're blanking. Okay, so this year...
Oh, collaborations.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of collaborations.
I don't think you're really planning on, like, releasing a full album of just Alaskan Tapes or an EP or anything. Like, it's pretty much... Maybe an EP.
An EP's coming, but it's re-recorded piano songs.
Yes.
In higher quality on the new piano.
But then a lot of your stuff going forward for this year is purely collaborations.
Yeah. Me and.
Can you talk about the people you're going to be working with? Because we all want to hear. I touched the microphone. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just go like that, and it should say. Yeah, I'm sure I can talk. I'll just talk. Who cares?
Okay.
Apparently one of them already did in a live stream of his.
Oh, cool.
And everybody got all excited about it.
Awesome.
Once again, though, just because I'm talking about it here doesn't mean that they will happen.
Some of them have already been in the works.
They're happening.
Yeah.
Who knows, though, right?
They're happening, but everyone's schedules, different life things might come up, things might get pushed off, so don't get too attached to these ideas.
Yeah, so me and Patrick Bergongfist are doing an EP together, who makes music as Lux. He's episode 18 on the podcast.
Oh, was he our last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to hear his story, go listen to episode 18. But yeah, we're working on like a 4-track EP. He's a fantastic composer. It's been really easy working with him. We've got 2 tracks pretty much done. And then the last 2 are started. And we're hoping to have that out like fairly soon, like June.
Yeah.
Start rolling that out. But for the time being, I am doing the re-recordings of, I'll just say the names. Not enough people listen to this. It doesn't make a difference. Notes, Places, and All We Can't See are getting re-recorded. And then there's a new song coming out with that EP, which will also be part of an album eventually. I just really like the song that I made called Everything Everywhere. So I wanted to put it out. It's been done for a long time. I've just not had the drive to do another record. I just put out We All Speak of Poems. Who Tends the Garden?
Yeah.
Right? Like, can you believe that only came out 6 weeks ago?
And you were done that how long ago?
Oh, and I've been, oh my God. It is just, but I said it the last time with For Us Alone, like, I used to work where I had albums ready once the album's out. I was like always 2 albums ahead.
Yeah.
And then For Us Alone happened and I wasn't. And now Who Tends the Garden happened and I wasn't. And I think it's actually a really good way to work.
Yeah.
Because it keeps things relevant and me excited about them. Generally, it is hard to stay excited after you've done 8 albums. But anyways, back to collaborations. Yeah, so me and Lux are doing one. It's going to be really cool. It's really beautiful songs. One of the songs are called After the Flood, which is really cool. I don't have names for the other ones. And then there's talks of me and Oat Mellow doing a EP or single or something. We've chatted about it a few times, but he's got a lot on his plate. He does 1,000 collaborations a year. So I'm just sort of waiting for that one. Could actually be with his ambient side project, Late Era. Who knows?
I didn't know that.
That one is up in the air. It might or might not happen. And then I think that there's only 3.
Flat Sound.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. So yeah, me and Flat Sound have been talking a lot lately, and we've started songs, and you know he's really into ambient music, and the ambient music that he makes, especially lately, is really good. You know, it's very tapey and experimental and all this stuff. So we're working on something. We've definitely got a track done. You know, so even if it's not an album, which we're planning on doing an album, like 12 tracks or something, we've at least got a single. But he's also one of the people who work, like, he hasn't even put out his newest album, but he's already got another one finished.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a while for that one. And it's going to be a while to, you know, actually make it.
Yeah.
You know, especially because we're also remote. He's in LA, I think.
It's still exciting just to know that it's in the works, and not to be overly biased here, but I'm so stoked for that one.
Yeah, his stuff is really interesting, right? Because
he's changed so much. Like, his stuff started out as like spoken word type music, and then he went into like this more like indie lo-fi vibe.
That's still where he is, but he also dabbles with the ambient music.
He's pushing a lot more to be in the ambient scene, which is really cool. I think that's a cool
and his stuff is good. That's just the surprising part, is his ambient music is actually really good. And
well, duh, he's super talented.
Yeah. But you know, it would be one of those things where it would be like, hey, I'm a fan of yours. I like your music. Let's work together. And then a lot of the time, if somebody was like, oh yeah, like let's do a fully ambient thing, even though I'm known as a singer-songwriter, I'd be like, or maybe we don't. You know, maybe we just do the regular stuff.
You were really hesitant about this collaboration when you found out that he's going the ambient route, because you were like, how is it going to be an ambient collaborative? But it's worked out so far, right?
Well, it kind of started with Lutz Jennings, because we were starting to get into this short, dark...
Well, we are currently.
And short, dark ambient music that's highly melodic, and that's what he does a lot as Wishing.
Okay.
And so that's
his side project.
His side project. And I actually reached out to him for that, not knowing that was a collaborative project with another guy. And then we had a call, and he was like, oh, let's just do Flat Sound Alaskan Tapes. And I was like, I'm not going to complain about that. You know, I had listened to his ambient album, Somewhere in the Distance. It's a longer title than that, but, you know, Somewhere in the Distance. And it was really good. Yeah. And especially the last 3 songs, which I've told him, they like incorporate acoustic guitar and ambient music and vocalists, and it's a sound that I'm really into right now, and I can't do it myself. I'm just not good enough at acoustic guitar. And it's people like that have been really into, like Ann Annie, like Black Brunswicker, you know, like I've been going down this like ambient folk rabbit hole for a while, and it's really exciting because I feel like that's sort of the thing that we're gonna make. It's gonna be like a modular ambient folk sine wave Taylor Dupree type thing.
Take all the genres and mesh them together.
Exactly. And it's going to have songs that are 45 seconds and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, we have the exciting thing with working with him is he doesn't expect anything when he puts out music. He doesn't expect playlist ads. He doesn't expect, well, he probably expects purchases. But he just makes the music that he wants to make. And that's what I like about it, because I overthink the music I make.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you get a lot of pressure on yourself when you're working with someone who kind of puts off the vibe of like, I have high priorities for this. And it's like, oh my God, like, am I going to be able to make this happen for you? But it's collaborative.
If it doesn't get listened to, I don't think either of us will care.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I don't know. It's all exciting stuff. We'll see what sort of happens. You know?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Do we want to talk about upcoming guests we're going to have on, or do you want to keep that a surprise?
We'll keep that a surprise, especially because who knows? They might cancel, or That's we true. Might cancel, or...
Well, just to entice listeners, we do have exciting people coming on.
And we have more ambient people coming on.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
And neoclassical.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be YouTubers and progressive metal vocalists.
Hey, those are good episodes.
I agree. I mean, the Annie episode was awesome, and just getting to meet him finally was great.
Yeah.
You know.
Great people.
Yeah.
Everyone's so nice.
That's the thing I'm surprised about. You know, when we were starting this last year, I expected there to be horrible interviews that we'd never be able to put out. I really expected this.
Yeah.
And every single thing that we have recorded, we have put out, because if it's not great, it's good enough and has purpose, you know? So maybe good enough is the wrong words, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's all been influential to me. Like, I remember almost all the conversations, and I feel like I bring them up.
I don't. I black out completely.
So do I, but, you know, I listen, the ones that I've edited, I definitely remember.
That's fair, yeah, because when I edit them, I remember it all too. Yeah. And I listened back to the other ones when they were coming out too.
Yeah. And, you know, we're not ones to do, like, activation stuff, like, follow us on Instagram, or, like, you know, follow us on Spotify. We
gotta start doing
or
that.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. And I'm not going to say it this time either.
I'm saying it.
I'm not going to tell you to subscribe to us
Brady's
on YouTube.
dreams come true.
Maybe if I just say it, though, it'll get stuck in their heads, and they'll...
I've looked it up. That's what they say online. You have to...
Be subliminal?
Promote yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta promote yourself.
But that's lame. Oh, Why? Actually, share it with your friends if you found it helpful. This is what I'm saying. Like, don't share this episode.
No, you can.
But share the Michael Lassard episode. or the Craig or Eli one. Fair, yeah. You know?
We're just rambling here.
Yeah. But do we have anything else on the list?
No. Nope. That was all that we wanted to get into.
If you have questions or whatever.
Yes.
We have an Instagram. Just send us a message.
Yeah. You can send it to We All Speak in Poems. You can send it to Alaskan Tapes.
Yeah.
You can send it to Lutz Jennings.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it, or if you have specific guests you want to see on it, just let us know, and we'll talk about it.
You just have a comment, like whatever. Just you can talk to us.
Please tell us that we're doing something good here.
Begging for with the approval from listeners. Please tell us we're doing a good job. No.
All right, that's it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode.
We'll be back 2 weeks.
You'll be back in 2 weeks.
I'll be back in 2 weeks. Chantal you'll never see her ever again.
Bye. No. I'll pop up here and there when I want to.